It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Joining me, as always, is Kraig Bowers. Purdue gets a 99-67 win over Texas Southern. A first half that was a little bit slow, but Purdue just out-talented Texas Southern, to put it bluntly. Braden Smith almost gets a triple-double, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as the crowd very much wanted that. Purdue shoots 52% from three, 13 to 25 overall. Pretty much just kind of got what they wanted for most of the game. So, I don't think a ton to take away, but me and Kraig still going to take you through everything. Kraig, just what are your kind of initial takeaways from this game?
Well, I guess initially, right, it kind of starts and ends with Braden Smith tonight. Anytime you're that close to a triple-double, I don't care who you're playing against. He was only in for 26 minutes of the game. Checking the Purdue stats log, they actually only show him with 9 rebounds on there. On the screen up here, they showed him with 10, so I'm not sure exactly where he ended up. With 9 assists on the Purdue official one. Not positive exactly where he ended up, but nonetheless, he was a couple rebounds away, and he was either there for assist or one away for assist. Just an incredible game by him. He shoots 5 for 5 from the line, shoots incredible from the field, and just controlled the game right out of the gate. Like you said, the first half was a little slow, but the first 8 minutes weren't. They looked great. Looked like there was no Maui hangover at all. Jumping right out of the gun. And then as we kind of started to see those rotations came in, it kind of looked like the bench wasn't quite as ready as the starters were tonight. And we hit that lull of about 6 to 7 minutes before they closed it again with a good run right at the end of the first half.
Yeah, for me, main takeaways is just like there isn't a ton to take away. This was the first game that, especially that first half, that I thought Purdue just kind of coasted, and I don't necessarily blame them. This is a team that they're clearly more talented than. Coming back from Maui, Big Ten play starting Friday. Obviously, it's not something you like want to see, but it's just a game where it's like, what is there to really take away? Purdue was dominant for 30 minutes of the game. Just kind of got to do what they wanted. There are a couple things that we will hit on, but yeah, just an overall game that, like, it's just what you expect from this type of game. It was good to see shots fall. 13 to 25 from three is big. 28 to 40 from the free throw line. And just kind of quickly glancing through, Morin was 0 for 2 and Berg was 1 for 2 at the end. So that's 1 for 4 right there. At crunch time, they ended up with 10 turnovers. A few of those were in the garbage time as well. So just a solid performance for 30 minutes or whatever. Braden Smith did his thing, just showing why he's one of the best point guards in the country at this point. Is pretty quick. We got to start having those kind of conversations with just how he's playing. But yeah, let's kind of get into it. We're going to keep this one fairly short. That's our plan. Kraig, I'll go to you first. Is there anything specifically you want to hit on right now?
I already talked about Braden, I guess, so I don't know that we need to exactly go there again. I guess if I'm going to jump to somebody else, I was actually really impressed with Trey Kaufman-Renn tonight. Quite a few of his points came when it still mattered tonight. I thought he looked much more comfortable, both in post moves and then also a couple of times he faced up and took his man off the dribble. And probably the thing that I was most excited about from him is he spent the whole night guarding smaller guys in space, and he looked really good doing it. He looked good when he was switching, and he got put on to even smaller guards than the guy he was initially guarding, who's already smaller and faster than what he is in this type of a game anyway. But, man, he played some really good defense and just shut down some drives and made him kick it back out multiple times tonight. And I know people aren't in love with the 4-5 lineup of him and Edey, but every game we play, it at least seems like TKR is getting more and more comfortable playing defense at the 4. Whether there's a spacing issue or not on offense, that's still maybe to be determined long term. I think Gillis obviously does provide more spacing in that role. But, we saw tonight and we saw in the Marquette game, it seems like Painter's come out in a few of these games and said, let's get Trey going first. It always used to be that first pass was always to Zach, always. Or if they went under on that pick and roll, then Braden would shoot a three. Like those were it was either one or the other right off the bat. And now a couple games in a row, we're seeing, Painter obviously calling TKR's number to try to get him going early. And I think both in the Marquette game and in this game, you've seen if he gets a couple of those early, then he just looks better all the way through for the rest of the game. Feels like he's in a flow.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Like, I think my whole thing is it is starting to look better, like you said. It's also a thing that's just like, as long as Purdue's winning, he's not going away from that starting. I'll bring up the rotation here.
And he also hit his last 2 threes. He hit his 3 tonight, and he hit his 3 in that Marquette game too.
Yeah. Just looking at the rotation, I guess there was more minutes tonight than I had thought, but what's been kind of happening is that the first stints of each half has been together, and then, in Maui, Painter was going away from it for like the rest of the half. So I think at this point it's Purdue is winning, and whether you want to say despite it or with it, whatever you want to just say it as, Purdue is still winning. And we talked all last March, all offseason of, hey, this team needs versatility. You'd rather have the option of playing them together than not. So I get sticking with it, keep trying. TR is looking more and more comfortable. So I'm just kind of scanning through. I'll leave Jones to you. We already talked about Braden Edey. Like, I actually don't know if there's much to say on this one. He played 21 minutes, 15 points, 6 rebounds, didn't miss a shot from the floor. I guess the only thing I'll say is we've mentioned slow starts for Edey. His first 2 looks today were at the rim, not hooks. They were like at the rim layups. And I obviously it's easier said than done, but I would look for Purdue maybe to start trying to get him 1 or 2 of those like early instead of those hooks, just to start getting him going more. Getting him going more early in the game, because obviously he's averaging like 26 and 13 and 4 blocks and all that stuff. And we've been through this.
What do you want, Joe? 40 and 20 every night?
That's what Braggs wants. I think everybody. I mean, even Fletcher Lawyer in our interview, which everybody should go check out pretty soon. We have a few days off before the Northwestern game. Even Fletch was said that Edey said his touch isn't quite there right now. But yeah, that's it with Edey. Even just the rest. Do you have anything on Edey? If not, I'll let you kind of cut loose on Lance Jones.
I thought his minutes were really good. I thought he played some really good defense. He got switched onto a guard at one point and kind of poked the ball away, and they had to pull it back out. And then he had a couple of blocks at the rim too, multiple blocks. So I thought defensively, Texas Southern is not a bad team, right? They lose by 30 or whatever it was tonight, and they're in like the 240s in KenPom or whatever. But this is the type of team that may find a way to win its league and end up being a 15 or a 16 seed in an NCAA tournament. And they've got some dudes that are athletes. They showed multiple times tonight that they could get by and break down some of our guards and get into the paint. And I thought Edey did a really nice job kind of shoring that up on the back end and protecting the rim. But if we're going to go ahead and move to Lance, I'm not going to take a victory lap on anybody or anything like that. But Lance showed out tonight, obviously. He had one heat check moment where maybe he waits until a rebounder gets down there instead of shooting it with 3 of them there and nobody from our team underneath the rim whatsoever. But, hey, at that point, he was 3 of 3. He goes on and hits another one. He has a couple of takes to the rim where he gets fouled. Has a nice little steal down underneath. But, again, just applies a ton of defensive pressure. But, man, I like – and Braggs has said, Braggs is much more – than me and you into like the emotion and the feeling around the team and the feeling around the players and whatnot. And I think as much as anything, like Lance just breathes confidence into this team. Like the way he plays and the swagger that he plays with and the looseness that he plays with. I think after he hit the last 3 and kind of strums it out, everybody on that bench is up and running to him. And you can just see him being loose and having fun around him and being ready to fire up shots. And I know that's against Texas Southern tonight, but it doesn't matter. He brings that same type of energy in any game, and when he's hitting, it's infectious for everybody else that's around him.
Yeah, 100%.
And he had a really nice. He's learning that entry pass better and better. You talked about Edey getting right to the rim the first time. If you go back and watch that, Lance throws an entry pass, and where his defender is against Zach, he throws it away from the defender and leading Zach to the rim so that when Zach catches it, all he's got to do is a half step, and the ball, where he catches the ball, is already partway up to the rim with no backside defender for help. So he's getting a lot better in terms of that entry pass and just figuring out exactly where to place it for Zach. And he's only going to get better at that the longer the year goes on. And with the shooting tonight, 4 of 5, for anybody counting beans out there on the season, Lance is now shooting 38% from 3 on the season.
Yep, 13 of 34 on the year. That is the 6th highest on the team right now, which is just crazy to say out loud. But
right.
The only thing I gotta say with Lance Jones is you saw that first shot, and I assume the broadcast caught it too. That ball was not at its peak, and Lance Jones was already talking to the Texas Southern bench. Like, he turned around, full Steph. He was already running up the court, and I saw that go in. I was like, oh yeah, Purdue won this one. It was just like you said, with the attitude and stuff like that. There is something to that. That's not a typical Purdue thing, and he brings that kind of just that swagger to this team. I don't know. They're kind of scanning through the players. I'll throw up the stats here real quick. I don't think we need to go through a ton or anything like that. I liked Ethan Morton's defense today. I thought it was good. I think offensively he played a bunch with the bench, so it's tougher to tell there. But defensively, it was just good to see him. I thought he was solid once again there. Obviously, he's a guy that's just not going to be a ton of minutes, but is a good he's a good 10th man on a team like this, where it's just can be a change of pace guy, can be a guy that you can throw in defensively and try something different, and that he's going to give good effort on that end. But yeah, that's wanted to give him a shout out. Obviously, Colvin is willing to fire up the ball as soon as he gets in. Gillis goes 3 of 3. I'm loving Gillis's confidence this year, and he didn't make a 2, but he had a couple. He had one take where he gets all the way to the rim. I don't quite remember the other one, to be 100% honest, but just having that ability to put the ball on the ground when needed, it's something I've harped on this year. He just didn't have that in his game last year, and I think that's been good to see for me from him.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to mention Mason if you didn't, because he was shooting 40% coming in tonight, and then he shoots 3 for 3 tonight. I'm not exactly sure what his total percentage on the year is now, but just been really good. And in small doses. Last year, it seemed like in some games he either shot really good on fairly high volume, or he missed a couple and then just kind of went away from it. So Painter always talks about when you're only getting a certain amount of minutes, how hard it is to come in off the bench and be ready to shoot and be ready to make shots on low volume. And so far this year, Gillis and a few other bench players that have really figured out, I guess, kind of how to embrace that and how to be ready and how to knock one down on not necessarily a lot of attempts if they get that open look. So that's something you certainly hope we see continue for Mason, because he's just so important when he's with Zach in there in terms of just providing a little bit more spacing and allowing things to open up underneath. You saw multiple times tonight where Texas Southern kind of did the Fairleigh Dickinson thing where they were doubling or triple teaming Zach a little bit more, doubling. They didn't go quite full Fairleigh. Don't ever go full Fairleigh. But they would doubled him up before, an entry pass was even thought about being made. And, if Mason's sitting out there and just spotting up and sniper and threes, teams aren't going to be able to do that. So certainly like that. And like you said, Miles comes in, misses a few of his first shots, and then he finds his corner, which is his sweet spot. And as soon as he gets to that corner, he knocks one down, and then he knocks another one down a little bit later. And I also just love watching first on D against teams like this, where it's maybe advantageous for us to switch everything, because he's just so athletic and good defensively in situations and in games like this where you're going to be when he's in with the lineup that he was in with, where they're going to switch everything out, he can just man up and play good defense against pretty much any position that's out there.
Yeah, no, that's what first brings. It's just the versatility on that end. And you mentioned the 3-point shooting and stuff, and I'll just kind of read through actually like the full team on the year. This is for total season updated through today, including today's game. Braden's 11 for 22, 50%. Lance is 13 to 34, 38%. Fletch is 10 to 30, 33%. TKR 3 is 7, 43%. Miles Colvin's 11 for 20, 55%. Gillis 7 of 13, 53%. First 2 of 6, Heidi 3 of 6, Morton 2 of 4. Like that's just, you look at more of the high volumes guys, Smith, Jones, Lawyer, Colvin, and Lawyer's only 33%, but he still, he has the ability to put the ball on the ground too. Like you said, it's just this is a team now that seems more confident in their shot, and when teams are going to double Edie down low, there just seems to be more options this year. And you kind of mentioned it. I don't know if you mentioned it on the last show or if it was just offline or whatever, but you mentioned how last year Purdue was getting good looks. They just weren't hitting threes. And we heard Painter constantly be like, these guys can shoot. These guys can shoot. And so he doesn't go out and get a shooter in the portal. But he probably just trusted that these guys could shoot. He stuck with his guns. And as of right now, through 7 games, obviously I expect it to cool off a bit. I don't expect them to be a 43% 3-point shooting team on the year. But right now it's paying off. He trusted his shooters, and right now they are hitting shots.
Yeah, no doubt. And, again, like I said in the show yesterday, we've seen hot shooting for a certain amount of time. So I think it's certainly something we don't want to jump the gun on and just assume that this hot of shooting is going to continue all year. But quite frankly, their good month last year was right around 40%. And I think through 7 games, what were they at as a team? 50%?
Last year?
No, this year through 7 games. What is it? What are we at as a team right now?
3-point shooting is 42.8%.
Oh, 42. I thought we were higher than that even. But yeah,
fourth in the country.
I mean, obviously have to see this continue, into December, into January, into February, into March. Want to see it continue when we go on the road. That's always a question. We haven't played a true road game yet. So we'll see what happens with that come this Friday. But right now it's certainly really promising and really encouraging that everybody's getting in on the action on it. It's like you said, Lance is shooting 38% and he's 6th on the team right now. And we would have taken that in spades last year.
100%. So we can kind of go through some of the stats. I'm not going to read them all off. They're very small for us with just the one screen. But, oh, man, this is really small. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Texas Southern 9 to 30 from 3, Purdue's 13 to 25. I think rebounding, Purdue out rebounds 46 to 29, which is cool. 10 second chance points to 0. Texas Southern with 52 bench points. Like their Mortal goes off for 25 off the bench. Just kind of for Purdue all around, though, you see 5 guys in double figures, another with 9, another with 7, Lawyer with 5. You see Lawyer, Smith, TKR, Jones, Gillis all shoot above 50% or above from 3 on the game. 28 for 40 from the free throw line. 19 assists on 29 made field goals is where it ends up. A lot of that is Braden Smith, obviously, with 10. Kraig, anything stand out from this? I know it's a blowout, so there's not as many, but anything still stand out to you from the stats?
I mean, I think the only thing you didn't hit on is the free throw disparity. Purdue takes 40 free throws to Texas Southern's 9. That's not real surprising in a game like this where there's such a size disparity, but we saw this a lot last year. And I think we've still seen a decent amount of free throw disparity this year, but maybe not to the same degree that we did last year. And this is one of those games where it was just a really, really large margin. And even if they weren't hitting on all cylinders in other dimensions of the offense, just that free throw disparity on its own is probably going to be enough to win the game. But luckily, they were also hitting on all their other cylinders tonight, too.
Yeah. Purdue up to 22nd in the country in free throw attempt rates at 46%, and they are 3rd. They have the 3rd lowest defensive free throw attempt rate, which is pretty on par with last year. Last year, Purdue's offensive free throw rate was 37th. Their defensive free throw rate was 1st. So kind of getting back to that. Rebounding is getting back kind of to where it was. The offensive rebounding still not quite as much, but obviously in a game like today, you're making a lot of shots. Edie only plays 20 minutes or whatever it was, 25 minutes. Don't expect as many offensive. He played 21. There it is. Don't expect as many offensive rebounds there either. One player I think I forgot to mention. If I mention him, then we'll move on. I felt I think Berg still is going to need time to be like productive in like larger minutes, but I know it's garbage time. That's all we've seen him in. It's garbage time. But like he's just getting more and more comfortable, and I'm excited to see where he ends up next year. I think he's just kind of making good plays. Like I said, I still think he still needs some time, and that's why he'll have a whole year and another whole offseason before he really is even in position to contribute. But just wanted to shout him out because I just think he's been playing pretty well in the limited minutes he's been given.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, we kind of talked about it as it was happening there, but certainly without a doubt, I just, you know, we watched him play this summer, and some of the video that was coming out of Europe, we watched him play in that couple of different scrimmages and whatnot. And there were times where he just didn't look super comfortable to me out there on the court and a little bit awkward in his post moves. And I think just the more and more time we've seen him get, like you said, in garbage time, but nonetheless, he just looks to me a lot more relaxed and more comfortable when he's making that move in the post. Had a couple of nice moves tonight and getting up and down the court better too, just in general, than I thought I'd seen earlier in the year.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's a promising sign. Obviously, Edie's going to be done after this year, or we assume so. He technically could come back. I think that's pretty much given that he will not be back. We can save that for another day as well. Is there anybody else you really want to hit on? I'm just kind of scanning through. I feel like we've briefly talked about everybody. Like maybe I should hit on Braden. He just is. I don't know if I really talked about him. Just complete control. He is one thing that I liked, and even as the second half happened and the assist and rebounds are racking up, he was still hunting his shot first. And I think that's when he's at his best, and that's when Purdue's at their best, is when he's hunting his shot first. There's a couple times they went to this. It was like it's basically Miami action, which is Chicago, but you know, Chicago's a pin down into a handoff. It's reversed. It's a handoff, and then you get a screen after. They went to that a few times, and Braden comes off looking for his pull-up. I don't think, really right now, with what Braden needs to do for this team, I don't think there's a shot that I don't like him taking. Even if it seems like he forces a pull-up, I think just that aggression is going to continue to open up passing lanes later in the game. And then you know, the start the second half, in the first 4 minutes, he had 3 rebounds, 3 assists. So then he can get into that mode of, hey, they're going to play me to shoot. Now I'm just going to get out and run and facilitate for others. Yeah, I mean, he's been one of the best point guards in the country, hands down. And hopefully just
yeah. And I mean, not to get ahead of ourselves, but if he keeps playing like this, he's going to be in the conversation for some All-American teams. I mean, yeah. I'd put him up against there's better scoring point guards out there. Mm-hmm. But in terms of an all-around true point guard game, I don't know how many that I would put up above Braden Smith at this point.
Yeah, he is 15th in the country in assist rate. So when he's on the floor, he's assisting on 40% of Purdue makes, which is just an insane number. And the turnover rate's only 19.5%. If we go to last year, he had an assist rate of 27.2, but a turnover rate of 21.5. So he's making plays, but not turning the ball over. He's had 2 or 3 assists in every single game so far. Like that's for how much he has to have the ball in his hands and how much he has to play. 3 turnovers is a great number for him. So yeah, I think that probably kind of wraps it up for this part. We're going to preview a little bit of Northwestern and then get out of here. This is going to be a shorter one. Purdue dominates. There's not as much to take away, like we've said. It is late. I have an hour and 15-minute drive back or whatever. But Big Ten play does start Friday. Kraig, before we get to that, do you have anything quickly on Texas Southern? Or are we good to go?
No. Let's move on to Northwestern.
Purdue plays Northwestern. Purdue plays Northwestern Friday, 9 o'clock tip Eastern time. Obviously, everybody knows last year is that was one of the games where Purdue was number 1, goes in, they get knocked off. The officiating and all that was a talk, and I know that'll be brought up a lot. I think Northwestern has taken a step back from last year, and expectedly so, because they did lose Audige. I think Barron was a little bit bigger loss, although Barnheiser has been absolutely phenomenal for them. I don't know what he's averaging at this point, but he's probably averaging a double-double still at this point. He definitely was through like 3 or 4 games in the year. Bowie is actually being efficient right now. 52% from 2, 40% from 3. Assist rate isn't there. He is a lot more of self-creating, but he's just going to be a guy that's where you kind of bring Jones in for. Like Jones is going to get the Bowie matchup, I assume. And then it'll be Smith on Lingborg or Barry, and Lawyer will take the other. TKR will take Barnheiser to start, and then Edie will take Nicholson, their 7-footer, he's been facilitating the ball really well. The biggest thing I think that Northwestern's taken a step back is just the defense isn't quite where it was last year. Obviously, you lose was Audige defensive player of the year or something like that, or co-defensive player of the year? Definitely the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten, yeah.
He was up there for national as well. Northwestern is a team, and I tweeted it earlier, like their defensive scheme is their assistant coach brought it over. I'm blanking on his name right now, but they are doubling the post every single touch. It does not matter who it is. They are doubling the post. They are also going to bring a ton of help on the rim. And so basically what they're trying to do is they want to take away the paint and they want to force you to shoot threes. Right now they're getting burned on it because teams are hitting a lot of wide open threes against them. So it's going to be, turnovers and ball movement, being able to move the ball without turning it over, knock down some threes. Like if Purdue keeps shooting the way that they have, they're going to get a lot of looks. And then if that happens, how does Edie get going later? It's kind of the things I'm looking for. Shutting down Bowie. And then Barnheiser is going to be an interesting matchup. TKR will start. I don't know if this will necessarily be a TKR game. Gillis is probably a better matchup in general for Barnheiser, and he is by far and away Northwestern's second option. So I know I rambled a lot there. Kraig, what you got?
Well, I mean, like you said, defensively, they just don't seem to be near what they were last year. It looks like an adjusted efficiency on defense. They're like 83rd in the NCAAs right now. I'll be interested to see, because, I mean, that's what gave us so much trouble last year, was just that they could create absolute chaos and get up into you and really body you up in a half-court set in terms of perimeter defense, which made it difficult to pass it into Zach. And then, like you said, the doubling down low after that created a decent amount of turnovers. So, if that's not their identity anymore, if they are not an elite defensive team, then I just don't know that they've got the horsepower to keep Purdue in check, although they do have the Wilson Evo ball in their favor. And as we all know, from statistics that we highlighted last year, Purdue shot about 10% lower in games with the Wilson Evo ball. With that said, again, they played Maryland on the road. They played Northwestern on the road, two of the best defensive teams in the Big Ten last year. So that's going to skew their sample size or sample sum, because I think there was only 6 games with the Wilson Evo ball last year. But just something to keep an eye on. A lot of the players don't like the ball, call it a big orange pumpkin. So see if that has any impact on shooting when we go up there or not. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Barnheiser looks like in a bigger role and what we do to keep him in check defensively for sure. I'm really excited for the Lance Jones-Boo Bowie matchup. And, that's one of those games to me where, even if Boo gets, because Boo's going to get Boo, right? Like,
yeah, he does what he does.
He has to. Whether he shoots 25% or 45%, a large portion of their offense has to come through Boo, because they don't have a ton of other options. So, whether Boo gets 20 plus or not, I want to see how difficult Lance Jones makes it on him to get those 20. And I'm really excited for that matchup. I know Lance really prides himself on harassing the best perimeter player on the other team, and I'm sure he's going to go in there just hyped up for that defensive matchup.
Yeah, 100%. We've been hyping up Lance Jones's defense, I've said, one of the best perimeter defenders in the conference. You can just probably take it to one of the best defenders in the conference, but he's obviously done it against Gonzaga, Tennessee, Marquette, especially like the Dalton Connect. But this is the type of matchup that, like the Boo Bowie matchup, things like that is why Lance Jones is at Purdue. He's going to be the guy to go check him. Now Smith doesn't have to exert as much energy on that end, and now he can be the guy more on offense. Another thing with Northwestern, they're not a deep team as of right now. They're 7, maybe 8 deep if they're pushing it. one of them is one of their backup guard is a freshman, kind of their backup wing's a sophomore, and then they have Blake Preston, who's more of he's a senior or grad transfer, and he's solid as a backup big, but not a ton of size outside of Nicholson. It's just going to be a game that Purdue has to win the rebounding battle, like Northwestern, especially Barnheiser. Specifically with Barnheiser, like Barnheiser's been rebounding the ball insanely well at the 4 spot. Purdue has to rebound the ball well. If they can do that, limit their turnovers, because Northwestern is going to pressure still. That's what they're going to do in the half court. They're going to trap, then knock down some threes. And I think Purdue has more talents, but it's at Northwestern. We've already mentioned Boo Boo. He can get on one. Ryan Langborg, he hasn't played the best for Northwestern right now. He's only 22% from 3 on the year, but he can be a guy that can go out and get buckets in heavy doses as well. So, I think this is a game that if Purdue's as legit as they are, which we all believe they are, they should go and win. But it's not the easiest first Big Ten game on the road at Northwestern, a team that knocked you off as the number 1 team last year. Going to be feisty, going to employ a game plan that tries to take away Edey as much as possible and the interior. But I'm excited the Big Ten Conference is back the Big Ten conference games are back for like 8 days, and then obviously we have a couple weeks off and then back to it. But yeah, anything Northwestern, Texas Southern, Big Ten, college basketball. Raul,
So
you go.
he asked what ball gets used, how that's decided. That's completely done by who the school sponsor is. So if it's a Nike school, they use a Nike ball. That's why Purdue uses a Nike ball. If it's an Adidas school, they use the Adidas ball. If they're an Under Armour school, Under Armour doesn't have a ball anymore that they give to the schools. Those schools use the Wilson Evo. And then that's also what was used in the NCAA tournament last year as well. In terms of more on Northwestern or this particular game, I don't have much on that. I do want to say a shout out to Purdue volleyball. Joe and I are big Purdue volleyball fans. Purdue hosts that tournament this Thursday and Friday. They got the 3 seed. Marquette's the 6 seed in there. So if you hadn't seen Purdue go against Marquette in basketball enough, you can watch Purdue go against Marquette in volleyball, hopefully, if they both win their first round matchup. But a team that I know you and I have both enjoyed watching all year long. If you want to talk about a team that's got a really young core, a bunch of freshmen and sophomore stars, and Taylor Anderson and Chloe Chicoine and Eva Hudson, and then you throw in some upperclassmen there as well, like Raven Colvin. 7-game winning streak to ride out, beating number 2 Wisconsin, and I think number 19 Penn State or 18 Penn State at the time. A lot of momentum going into the postseason. So shout out to the Purdue volleyball team and Dave Shondell, and good luck as you head into that tournament.
Yeah, 100%. I am very, very excited. I think they're playing their best volleyball of the year. I'm obviously not like an expert or anything in volleyball, but just my time for the past 4 or 5 years at Purdue, or 4 years at Purdue, just was a blast being a part of the block party. If you are students and you're watching this, and just go to the volleyball games, especially these 2. Purdue with the 3 seed, they get to host their first 2 games. It's gonna be a fun atmosphere. It's one of my favorite memories from my time at Purdue was it was the second round of the tourney. Purdue, I believe they were taking on Marquette actually, and Purdue was pretty heavy favorite. That was another really, really good team. Jenna Otek and Kayla Newton and Grace Cleveland, just some really, really good players. They go down 0-2. Stormed back to win in 5 sets, and it was electric in there. Then immediately after, I turned around, went to Mackey, and Purdue beat Iowa to become the number 1 team in the country for the first time ever. But yeah, just it was a good night. I enjoy reminiscing on that one. Shout out Purdue volleyball. I'm excited to see what they can do. I really think that they can make a run. They're also a team that out of their rotation right now, the only one that'll be for sure gone is Maddie Skimmerhorn, the libero. She is elite at what she does, so it is a big hole to fill, but returning a lot of players. So that's your Purdue volleyball talk here. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited for the tournament in general. Going to be watching a lot of that. Going to be watching a lot of Purdue basketball too, because we're getting into the mix of it. Four big games coming up over the next 2 weeks. Northwestern and Iowa obviously start Big Ten play. Then it's Alabama at the game in Toronto on the 9th. And then the following Saturday, potentially number 1 versus number 2, Arizona in Indy. Lots of good stuff coming. We're going to keep pumping out these post-game shows. We have the interviews, like we just had the interview with Fletcher Lawyer yesterday. We're on, you can watch that on YouTube. We're also on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcast. It's a good time right now for Purdue sports. Greg, do you have anything else, and just in general, whatever you want to throw out? If not, I think we're gonna get out of here because, yeah.
No, I think this one can be pretty short and sweet, and not a whole heck of a lot of to talk about and break down in this particular game. And I can let you get home before 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. It'll be fun. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, Purdue wins 99-67 over Texas Southern, a game that they coasted a little bit in the first half, out-talented them the rest of the way, almost get to the 100 mark and could have if they wanted to, probably. Braden Smith almost with a triple-double. He's 1 rebound and or assist away from that. Just a really, really dominant game from him. Purdue shoots the ball really well. Lots of good things going as they are now 7-0 heading into Northwestern Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern tip. We'll be live immediately after that game as it is a road game. Braggs potentially will be on site for that. Not sure if that's a guarantee or not. But yeah, like I said, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you are still tuning in. This is a shorter one. Most of ours are an hour 15, but not too much to talk about here. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify podcast. Definitely go give those a 5-star review if you do enjoy this content. You can follow Kraig on Twitter at KraigBowers34. Follow me on Twitter at JoeJacksonCBB. You can follow us on Twitter at Boilers in Stands. We're just going to keep putting out content for you guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you Friday post Northwestern.